Howdy, fellow Vine Trippers. I wanted to take just a moment before the show starts to let you know about a great website called Texas Wine Lover. They can be found at txwinelover.com. And they have a comprehensive website that can become your go-to site for information on Texas wines, winemakers, and the wineries that can be found in this state. They even have a phone app that you can download, and that will help you plan your route to create your own wine trip. So make sure and check them out at txwinelover.com. Welcome to Texas Under Vine, an exploratory podcast to scout out the best that Texas wine country has to offer. I'm your wine guide, Scott, and I'm here to lead you on an auditory expedition to the vineyards and wineries across the great Lone Star State. Each episode will cover a different vineyard, winery, or wine-related business operating in Texas. You'll hear interviews, descriptions, and details about each location that will excite you to visit and experience them for yourself. Ready to plan a wine tour? Use these episodes to choose the most interesting spots for you and your friends to check out. Most of all, enjoy hearing about the rapidly growing wine industry in the state and what makes our wines and wineries the best. Howdy, fellow Vine Tripper. So welcome to episode 25 for Texas Under Vine. Today, I'm going to shine the light on a little vineyard east of the Austin area called Rising Sun Vineyard, which is located in a little town called McDade. So even with its close proximity to Austin, the way I divided the regions of Texas by counties, this actually falls into what I've deemed the Gulf Coast region, even though it's a good distance from the actual Gulf Coast. But it is a good hour or two east of the hill country. So it does fall into a different region just for the podcast measurement that I have. If you want to see a map that shows how I've subdivided the state into 8 different regions, just check out my website at texasundervine.com. Now, the owners, Steve and Sandy Frentz, moved here from New Mexico in 2000. They were originally planning on having just a cattle ranch, and in 2016, they visited a winery with their son and their daughter-in-law, and their son and daughter-in-law actually encouraged them to start a winery on their ranch property there in McDade. They kind of laughed and said, I'm not sure. Well, they ended up getting a gift of some vines from their kids, and with those, they went and planted it, and they started with Villard Blanc, and their estate now consists of white grapes, the Villard Blanc, Vermentino, and then red grapes that are Barbera, Tempranillo, Syrah, Black Spanish, and Tannat. So they ended up planting their vines in 2017 and decided, hey, this is going to work, so they opened up the winery in 2019. Since Steve has been a general contractor throughout a lot of his life, he's actually built almost all of the buildings there at the winery. They're currently building actually a new brewery and a custom kitchen on site. Now, they were building that when I was there for the interview, but it officially opened on September the 2nd. So it's now actually open to the public. The ranch itself consists of 72 acres and is set back in the hills down a really long, winding country road just outside of McDade, Texas, just east of the Austin area. They feature a very popular sparkling rosé wine, which was their very first estate wine from their property. And every year on Texas Independence Day, they do a really big 4-day festival on Thursday to Sunday where people come out and they camp at the vineyard or come in their RVs and enjoy multiple bands, and they have a big, large pig roast during that time. It's a really big festival they host there at the winery. Did I say RVs? They're actually also a harvest host, so you're welcome to work with them to come out in your RV at any time, not just during the Texas Independence Day Festival. They have both an indoor tasting area as well as a large outdoor pavilion where they have live music. You can order some amazing pizzas here, and I was able to enjoy one as I enjoyed the breeze and sipped on a nice glass of wine on the afternoon during my time I was there. In addition, I was actually privileged with the opportunity of going out and lending my hand to help with their 2023 harvest of their black Spanish grapes. So I can't wait to taste those wines when they're actually released down the line. I sat down with their operations manager when I was there. Her name is Shana Gonzalez, and was able to hear her thoughts on the story of the vineyard and even some of their future plans. So let's take a listen. Let's see what she had to say. All right. Well, so I'm here with Shana Gonzalez, and your title is the operations manager?
Yes, and sommelier.
Okay, at Rising Sun Vineyard.
Yeah, Rising Sun.
And we're in McDade, Texas. So tell me a little bit about yourself. What got you into the wine industry?
So I have a fun entrance into the wine world. I started young. I was about 17. So, but, we're in Texas in the country. It's fine. So my mom met this lady who is like she comes to your house and she does a wine flight. And so you can start from, so basically she came to the tasting. You start from Moscato, and then we kind of worked our way up to a Malbec. And kind of similar to you, I actually jumped right into the Malbec. It was Alamos Malbec. I will never forget it. I remember tasting the Moscato and I was like, this is too sweet. I don't know about this. And then as we worked our way up, as soon as I got to the Malbec, I was like, whoa, this is crazy. This is actually really good. I actually found some depth in it. And so she did a really good job. She was an educator. Did a really good job of explaining the wines as we walked through them. And I was just so fascinated. And so my mom is a teacher. And as you know, fellow teachers love to drink.
Yes, we do.
So it was one of those things where if you book a party at my mom's party, you get 20% off or whatever it was. So 5 or 6 of my mom's teacher friends ended up having parties. And so it was the same lady who hosted each party. And of course, I went to each one. And after about the third party, I really started catching on to the educational side of it. And she finally said, her name was Stacy. She finally said, Shana, you come up and tell us about this wine. And I was so excited. So at that point, I had started kind of doing my own research on some wines. And I remember, I'm going to make a disclaimer. Kids, don't do this at home. Okay. So I remember one time, whenever I went to college, I was studying Pinot Noir or something. I'm pretty sure it was Pinot Noir. And my parents were coming into town. So I told my dad, I said, hey, go to Specs and pick up this wine for me. Like I sent him the label anyway and got it. And I had I went to Phoenicia Market in Houston. So I went to the University of Houston. So I went to Phoenicia Market in downtown Houston. Amazing place. And I got my little pairing selections of foods that I thought would pair well with the Pinot Noir. So I had my calamari and some tabbouleh. Just fancy things, in my opinion, fancy things as a college student. So my dad brought this Pinot Noir in and we did our little tasting. And I just remember I was just sitting in my dorm room, swirling my Pinot Noir, drinking it while all my friends, it was like a Friday night. They were all gone, like some party or something. I was just hanging out with my parents, drinking Pinot Noir. So it was a fun, my parents were very open to it as far as the educational side. And I love my upbringing in terms of like how my parents view alcohol. So they're big on education as well. And if you learn about it, learn to appreciate it, then you don't tend to abuse it later on. And so that was it was obvious in college. You could tell the kids who were kind of sheltered from alcohol, they went a little bit on the deep end, versus the ones who actually had appreciation for it, and learned to respect it. And so that I really enjoyed that kind of upbringing. So it worked out really, really well. So like I said, I went to the University of Houston. I studied at the Hilton College of Hotel and Restaurant Management. So it's a hospitality degree. So I actually fell into beverage management and marketing. So I got to study wine and beer and spirits in college. And then right after college, my senior year, and then right after, I worked at the Texas Wine School in Houston, which is probably the top wine school in Texas. So met some really great people there. And then I studied a little bit of French, and I did a study abroad program my junior year of college. And so afterwards, after I graduated, I was working at the Texas Wine School. I became really good friends with one of the Burgundy importers. And so I told him I want to continue my wine studies in France. And he said, "Oh, I know of what's the word? The superintendent or director, I'll say director of the program." Okay. So I asked him about, I said, "Oh, I'm looking at the Burgundy School of Business in Burgundy." And he said, "Oh, I know the director. I'll just call him up real quick." So he just called up the director right there and we started talking. So long story short, I end up moving to Burgundy. And so now I'm studying, getting my master's in wine business, international wine business in Burgundy. So that was 2018 to the end of 2019. And while I was there, I got my WSET level 3 and my spirits level 2. And yeah, came back to Texas. So as I traveled back to Texas, it was the end of 2019. So I had these plans to continue traveling worldwide, going to New Zealand. I was dead set. I had met a really nice sparkling wine producer in New Zealand at the Texas Wine School in Houston. And so I was dead set on going there. But then of course, pandemic hit. So abroad travel plans got canceled. And it was at the same time that Rising Sun Vineyard had opened in McDade. So I was working at a wine bar in Elgin, Texas, which is not far from where we are here in McDade. And I helped them kind of boost their wine program, and I started doing tastings there. And after a while, it was probably September, October of 2019. A lot of customers were asking me if I'd heard of the winery that was opening up in McDade. Now, McDade is a very small country town, very rural. So in my head, I thought nothing good can be in McDade. Like, I grew up here. There's no way if it's a winery, they're making fruit wine. Like, I'm not going to do that. So after enough people had talked to me about it, I said, okay, I'll go. I'll humor. So I remember driving up. There were 2 women on horses drinking sangria as I walked up, and I said, "Oh, this is McDade." They're drinking sangria. So I walked in and I met Sandy. She was at the bar, the owner. And I said, "Hi, I'd like to do a tasting." At that time, their menu was pretty small, but it was a flight of 5 wines. So I did the tasting. I started off the first couple wines. I was volatilizing, swirling it, smelling it, doing all the fancy sommelier things. And about the third wine, I became really impressed with the wines because they were not sweet. They were dry. They were actually high quality. And so it was around that time, I think I was nearing the end of my tasting. And I said, "Wow, these wines are really good. Who's your winemaker?" And so she told us that they use Bob Young in Comfort. Yep. Bending Branch and Comfort. Yep. And so then she said, "Are you Shayna?" And I said, "Yes." She said,
"Depends."
Right. I'm like, who's asking? She said, "I heard about you at the post office." So again, McDade, small town. So she said she was at the post office and someone came and knocked on her window and said, "Did you know there's a sommelier in McDade?" And she said, "No." And it was just a really funny thing. So that's how I ended up here. I just kind of stayed.
I love it that people are telling you, "Did you know there's a winery in McDade?" And people are telling them at the winery, "Did you know there's a sommelier?"
It's like crazy. Only in a small town.
I got to say, I'm definitely proud of you as a college student for your pairings. When I was in college, I probably would have been pairing with what chicken ramen flavor goes best with.
Yep.
So you had your sights pretty high there. Good job.
My dad was very big on, we would always watch the Travel Channel and Andrew Zimmern. And so my imagination just ran wild with all that stuff. So it was very fun to play around.
You've been here, when did you start here?
So I have officially been here, I'd say full-time, 2.5, almost 3 years now.
Okay. Since around that COVID time.
Mm-hmm.
And funny how we mark everything by COVID now.
Yep.
It's become a new marker for us. Well, tell me a little bit about this location's history. So how did it get started? And you dabbled into that just a moment ago, but how did it get started? And then what was the story there?
Yeah. So Steve and Sandy Frentz are the owners. They are from New Mexico. Well, Sandy's originally from Montana, Steve from New Mexico. But they moved out here in 2000. They actually lived in Liberty Hill first. So Steve's sister moved from New Mexico to Leander. So lived in Leander for a long time, and then they moved to Liberty Hill. And then they ended up moving out to this property in McDade, I believe, in 2000. So they moved out to have cattle. They've always had cattle. They had an enormous ranch in New Mexico. And so they moved out here to do cattle. And Sandy has a green thumb. She can grow anything. And if you look at all the plants on our patio, that's all Sandy. She does a great job with that. So fast forward to 2016, their son and daughter-in-law took them out to, they went to a winery somewhere in a vineyard. And their son said, "Hey, y'all could do this." And they were like, "Oh, well, winery, vineyard, that's never been on the agenda." They've done a lot in their life, but, of course, you don't think to do that typically. So then Christmas that year, their son and daughter-in-law gifted them a handful of vines. So it's actually the first couple of rows. So we have the Villard Blanc that's out there. We call it Oparia. It's Basque for the gift, because Steve's family is of Basque heritage. So that's a theme that kind of runs a lot in our wines, as you see our menu. So anyway, we have those first couple of rows. And of course, like I said, Sandy's a green thumb. She did phenomenal with them. And then they decided, we'll get a few more. 5 acres later, and we're still continuing to expand. So we have 5 acres of vines. There are 7 varietals out there right now. So Rising Sun Vineyard is the first vineyard east of Austin. So we're kind of an experimental vineyard, just based on our soil. We're on a lot of it's clay and sand, just kind of in various mixtures. So we have 2 whites, Villard Blanc and Vermentino, and then we have Barbera, Tempranillo, Syrah, Black Spanish, and Tannat. Black Spanish is a weed. It grows like crazy. And it's really fun to see, every year is so different and how each varietal thrives. But we are finding that the Vermentino is doing really, really well. And it also sells out very quickly for us. People love our Vermentino. So I know Steve has big plans to continue expanding the vineyard, but it's really just 4 of us who kind of run the vineyard. So Sandy was like, "Unless you buy me a crew," I think she's done as far as the vineyard goes. So then so they planted vines in 2017. The winery opened in 2019, and it was all an accident. Everything they do, they just keep falling into accidents. So the building that the tasting room was Steve's tractor building. That was his tractor garage. So he was a general contractor. He retired from that, and so he pretty much everything you see around here, even this beautiful new kitchen that we're currently sitting in, he built it all himself. And a lot of it was just scraps that he had from down in the back. And Sandy would say that she could tell when Steve was coming home from a job, if he came in up the driveway and veered off towards the shop, she knew he was bringing some junk home. But now he's actually using that junk, so it's not completely useless. It all worked out. You never know. Exactly. So winery opened in 2019. And then we are building this brewery and new kitchen. So we'll have a full commercial kitchen and a brewery opening September 2023. So
awesome.
Very excited.
Cool. Well, so is there a story behind the name of the location, Rising Sun?
Yes. It was their cattle brand in New Mexico originally, but then also if you come out here first thing in the morning and watch the sun rise, it is one of the most gorgeous things ever. And I will put a plug to our Facebook page. So their daughter, Mandy, takes wonderful pictures of sunsets. So if you just scroll through and find the pictures of sunsets that Mandy has posted out here, they're to die for. Absolutely gorgeous. Yeah.
Well, you touched on this just a little bit, but I want to bring it around full circle here. So my first question is, why McDade? So as we said, it's a small little town. You got this little country. First off, let me just say, I love driving down the road with the trees over the canopy of trees.
It's gorgeous coming out
here.
It's
great. I loved it. But it is kind of in the middle of nowhere. They moved here to do cattle first.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the winery came along afterwards.
Yeah. So they moved out here in 2000, bought the 72 acres that we're on. So it's 72 acres for mostly cattle land. And then the vineyard was just a total accident.
Okay. Well, so you have you said 5 or 7 acres of estate? 5. 5 acres of estate vines.
Mm-hmm.
Do you source grapes anywhere else?
Yeah. So whatever we don't get from our vineyard, right now our vines are still technically pretty young. The oldest vines are 17, 18, 5, 6 years old. Yeah, 6 leaf this year, coming up on that. And then we have vines that we've just planted as well. So it's a wide range at the moment. But yes, we do source from North Texas, of course, a lot. And then Bob Young has an organic vineyard in Northern California. So whatever we don't get from there, he'll pull from his vineyard in California. But that's maybe 10% of our wine right now. It's really not a whole lot.
Okay.
So we're at least 80, 85, 90% Texan.
Okay.
Yep.
And do you have a specific line that's your estate stuff and then others that are just marked as...
It's all the same label if you look at it, but we do have the estate wine on our labels.
On the ones that are estate.
Yeah.
Perfect.
We have on our menu, I think we have 4 or 5 estate wines currently.
Okay.
We're very proud of those.
And then where do you process all the grapes?
So the whites for example, we just harvested on Thursday, our white grapes. And so those we can do here on property. So we have our crusher, destemmer, presser, all that fun stuff. We set it up in the pavilion. Just bring the grapes into the pavilion and do it all here. So they're currently sitting in the tank right now, getting ready to ferment and get ready to go. But the rest of them, there were years we get 18 to 21 tons of fruit. So that's when we take that over to Bob because he has the huge winemaking facility and he can help us better with that.
Okay.
I think one day we'd love to be able to do all of our wines. We just don't have the capacity for it yet. But hey, you know what? We can always build it.
Okay. So what are some of your favorite wines that y'all make?
Oh,
from a personal perspective.
Yeah. I get this question a lot. And honestly, it depends on my mood. So I would say I'm a very seasonal drinker. I love whites and rosés in the summer, reds in the winter. Well, I drink rosé year round. And I'll drink sparkling year round. So we have a sparkling rosé that is to die for. It's so good. Our bud burst. The new vintage of rosé, of the still rosé that we got, is also very, very good. So the rosés have a special place in our hearts because they were our very first estate wines, and they will continue to be. So they're usually 50% Black Spanish and then 50% of whatever whites we end up getting. So. I will say our rosés are number 1, and then our Vermentino. It just that stuff's crack. It's so good. And so when we sell it here, we put it on tap, and so we make it slightly sparkling, and it goes so quickly.
So you keg it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. And then as far as reds go, our Tannat is really, really good. But we have a brand new wine. It's actually not on the menu yet. We just tried it yesterday, but I'm going to put a little teaser in there. Our La Familia is really the one coming out is phenomenal. So we have one red wine called La Familia, and that is a wine that we've had since the very beginning. And so that is, it's the Basque Heritage Blend. So it changes a little bit each vintage. But that one has been a staple for us. We usually run out of that one pretty quickly as well.
Coming now from more of a customer's perspective, well, what are the things that just typically fly off the shelf? It's kind of hard to.
Vermentino's number 1.
Yeah.
Our sparkling rosé is number 2. And then as far as reds go, it's it's between the La Familia, which is our blend, a state blend, and then our Barbera.
Okay.
It's a very popular one too.
All right. Well, so let's talk then about the location itself.
Mhm.
What types of events, or I can hear we got live music kicking in.
Mhm.
What other events or attractions or things do y'all do here at the winery itself?
Yeah, so on a weekly basis, we do have live music every Saturday. And then in the fall and spring, we do live music every Saturday and Sunday when the weather's more agreeable. But Steve is also a musician. And so that was his one ask whenever we were doing where I say I'm a part of this too now. Whenever they were building it, he said, I want live music. And so we do that every week. And then every year for Texas Independence Day, which is the last weekend of February, first weekend of March, usually whenever that falls, we do a really big Texas Independence Day music festival out here. So it's 4 days, Thursday through Sunday. People come out and camp. They bring their RVs. We get upwards 300-400 people maybe. Our local, it's a huge community thing. So a lot of the local guys will come out and cook pig. We'll do a pig roast, and so they make food for us, and it's a really fun event. So that's yearly, and then other events I do food and wine tasting or pairing events. Typically for wine club first, but then every once in a while, we'll open it up to everyone. Whenever we have a new wine coming out, we'll do a more upscale dinner for wine club in the vineyard. So we'll set up a really nice, pretty tent in the vines. And Steve is also a chef. He wears many, many hats.
Yeah.
He's a phenomenal cook.
Contractor, musician, chef, winery.
All of the above. He can really do it all. Right now, he's our head brewmaster. He's teaching himself that. He really is a jack of all trades. It's fantastic.
I love it.
So he will cook a really nice meal, and we'll pair it with whatever our wines we're releasing at that time. And that's usually a really fun event. Wine club members love it. And then bingo is another monthly event that we do. So bingo is the last Friday of every month. We had no idea what to expect when we first started it. It has become one of our biggest events.
Really?
People look forward to bingo every month. It's great. That's pretty much it. We do a lot of little odds and ends things. Like 2 weeks ago, we had a doggy day where we made homemade dog treats and we had little charcuterie boards, and we're very pet friendly, and it's almost to the point where when people come in with their animals, I remember their dog's name before I remember their name. Usually, we're very, very dog friendly. And then we did well, like I said earlier, we do little food pairings as well, but sometimes we'll just do Wine 101 classes that I'll lead as just from an educational standpoint. Eventually, I would like to bring WSET classes out here. That might be a little bit further down the road as far as getting all that together, but I would like us to be an educational destination as well. So my thesis for my master's, it was how does purchasing habits change with educational courses? So if someone takes a wine educational course, how do their purchasing habits change? What their views, of course, of wine change? And it was really, really interesting doing that study because it did tend to change significantly. I mean, and it makes sense. You go to your local grocery store and you see all these labels of wine and you are just thinking, I have no idea what to do. I'm just going to grab the prettiest label. But then whenever you actually understand, okay, let me look for the region, let me look for the grape varietal, let me look for a producer, then it starts to get a little more interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm shapefully one of those people who several years ago, I bought wine based on the cool label.
Mm-hmm.
But part of that's because I'm graphic design focused as well. So I thought, this is really cool.
Yeah.
You taste the wine and go, it's not that good.
Yeah.
But then once I did start doing my WSET and I learned a lot more, now I've got like a list in my phone of 40 or 50 every time. I want to try that one. And I'll have that my bucket list of things I want to try.
Yeah.
Kinds, producers, all kinds of stuff. So that's cool.
Yeah.
So let's then think about if a listener wanted to come do a tasting. They want to come visit and check things out. Walk me through what a tasting looks like. So Is it a set flight of wines? Do they pick what they want to taste? And how does that cost? What does that look like?
Yeah. So our flights are very fun. So it's a choice of 3 wines. You can pick any 3 wines from the menu. It's $12, so very reasonably priced. And they're generous pours, in my opinion. So one person can do a tasting, and it ends up being about a glass of wine's worth. And then, so it's enough to share as well. And what a lot of people will do, if they come in groups of 2 or 3, they'll get a couple of tastings so that they can taste every wine on the menu. And if we're not super busy, then I really love when that happens, because then I could just sit there and nerd out with them and talk them through all the wines. So our tastings are fun. But yeah, they're very easy to do. You choose whatever 3 wines you want. There's no reservations. It's just come as you
walk in.
Yep, walk in.
What are your operating hours for them to walk in?
So we are open Thursday through Sunday. Thursday, we're open 2 to 6. Friday is 2 to 8. Saturday is 12 to 8. And Sunday is 12 to 6.
So you stay open that later on Saturdays for the live music and all that?
Yeah.
Family friendly, kids, pets. You talked about pets a little bit, but...
Yes, we are very family friendly, very pet friendly. We have a state-of-the-art sand pile for all the kids. They love it. It really is funny watching the kids who know. They'll get right out of the car and go straight to the sand pit. It's great. And then, yes, very pet friendly. We love dogs on a leash, of course, well-mannered dogs. But yes, every dog that comes in gets a treat. Any
kind of drink type offerings that might fit for kids?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do have non-alcoholic options. We have in the summertime we make a watermelon cooler, which is white wine, watermelon juice, and fresh watermelon. Everyone around here loves it because McDade is known for watermelons. We have a big watermelon festival every single summer. So we have a kid-friendly version of that. We have a kid-friendly version of our Sunrise Splash. And then we have a couple of soda options and tea as well.
Food options when people come. Do you provide food options? I know you're building this commercial kitchen now, but in the meantime, can people bring their own food, or do you provide food, or what does that look like?
We do provide food. So our main offerings, we have charcuterie plates. We have pizza and bread trays and ice cream sandwiches that are really delicious. So I'll talk about our pizzas real quick. We've become famous for our pizzas. They are so good. So we started off just having one little stone pizza oven. And then during COVID, of course, we turned into a restaurant, quote unquote, so that we could stay afloat, or stay open, I should say. So we ended up buying a second pizza oven, and we stayed for, I don't know if we could say we stay busy during COVID, but we stayed in business during COVID.
Right, and that's a good thing.
Yes, it is. So people will come out just for our pizzas, and a lot of local, like we had a few families who, they would be at home all day, all week. And so they would come out here with their kids and just breathe, because we're on 72 acres. You can come out here and breathe. And so people love to just come out here and be socially distanced and eat a delicious pizza and drink delicious wine. So yes, our pizzas are really good. And then once we open our commercial kitchen, we'll be expanding our menu. We're looking to do, paninis, kind of more hot sandwiches. We'll do some snacky bar foods like wings and fries and maybe some jalapeno poppers, those kinds of things. Beer food, whenever the brewery opens.
Yeah.
And then whenever we do special events, Steve cooks things like burgers, and his burgers are so good. Like, people wait for Steve's burgers. So just kind of those bigger food items will probably be more special event until we get going. But who knows what'll happen? Just wait and see.
Right. Any maximum group sizes? Do you like to limit anything?
As far as just a regular weekend, a lot of people come out for birthdays and such. If it's more than 20, we ask for reservations. And typically groups that size, people will usually reach out to do a reservation anyway. But we do have the option to, we do a lot of big events. We do weddings, renewals, baby showers, birthday parties, all kinds of things out here. So we do have the option, if you have a large party and you want to rent half of the pavilion or the whole pavilion, or if the weather's nice, we can do a tent out in the vineyard. And we also have a hill, really beautiful hill up behind the vineyard, where we actually do most of our weddings. And I can say this is the best place to get married because I got married here.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. So our hill, that is the best place to see the sunset. And so we do a lot of sunset weddings, and it is absolutely gorgeous.
Well, it's one of these days you need to have an event that's an early morning event for people to drink their wine and see the sunrise with Rising Sun.
Have a brunch event. That would be fun. Well, people will come out for the Independence Day Festival, and we do harvest hosts as well. So if you want to bring your RV out, you can come experience a sunset or sunrise. Sunset and sunrise, do both.
Busy and slow seasons. What's the best time to come visit?
We're busy in the fall and the spring, typically when Texas weather is agreeable. We are semi-busy in the summer, just depending on events that we have. But typically it's not too crazy. We do have big fans and misters in our pavilion to try to help keep you cool. If you're out here in the summertime, it can be a little bit brutal, but yeah, I would say fall and spring are busy times.
And then I know you have one because you mentioned it earlier, but tell me a little bit about your wine club.
Yeah. So wine club is, we love our wine club members so much. And I make a point to try to remember everyone's name as much as possible whenever they come in. And of course, all their animals as well. So there's no charge to sign up for the wine club. But to activate your membership, you can buy 3, 6, or 12 bottles. And with that, you get 10, 15, or 20% off every time you come in. So we do our wine pickup parties quarterly. So we have 4 of them. And Steve cooks a big meal for everyone. And so you get a homemade food, you get free food, and then a free glass of wine. And typically what we do is, if we have a new wine that we want to introduce, we will usually wait to introduce it at wine club. So then if a wine club member wants to use their free glass to try the new wine, we always have that as an option. Yeah, like I said, our wine club pickup parties they're pretty fantastic. The pavilion is full, the lawn outside is full. We always have live music. I would say our spring pickup is always the best because we do a Mardi Gras theme, and we get a blues player to come out. His name is King V. He is the second cousin to BB King, and he's such a great performer. He's such a good friend of ours. He lives in Georgetown, and that's definitely one of our good ones. And then our winter is another fun pickup because Steve does red and green enchiladas. It's usually kind of around Christmas and
Texas Christmas.
Yep. Yeah. So those are fun. We have a lot of fun with Wine Club.
And then how can someone become a member? Do they have to come in and talk to somebody? Or
you can sign up online.
Okay.
We do have that option on our website, or you can also come in. I prefer that people come in and sign up because then I can see a face and put a name to a face. And so we like to have that personal touch.
And then if somebody came in, or let's say that they couldn't come in for whatever reason, but they're intrigued and they would love to taste some of your fantastic wines that we talked about. Do you do any kind of distribution, or do you sell on your website?
Ship. Yeah, okay. We do ship wines. You can buy wines on our website. And we do have actually a lot of out of town wine club members. And so we do regularly ship to them as well. So there is that option.
Okay.
Yeah.
So plans for future growth. We're sitting in this commercial kitchen, and you talked about the brewery and all that. So tell me about what some of the plans are for future growth.
Yeah. So, the next immediate thing is this kitchen and brewery. We will be opening that in September 2023. It's really hard to plan what we're going to do next because it all just kind of happens accidentally. If you had asked Steve and Sandy if they wanted to open a brewery a year ago, they would have said no. This winery is more than enough work. But they just kind of fall into things. So it's really beautiful to see that process and to be a part of it. So I'm really excited for the next 5 years because who knows, we might have a water park out here or something. I don't know.
It's the journey of happy accident.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And what's really cool is their family is super tight knit. And so 2 of their kids live here in Texas and 2 of them live in New Mexico. And so they come down often and bring their whole families out here. So every once in a while, if you see a bunch of grandkids running around, the whole family's here. But yeah, they're all extremely helpful. Actually, all three, so they have three sons and one daughter. All of their sons work in construction and are general contractors to some degree. And then their daughter, her husband is an electrician. So whenever they came out, they were here for about a month, and he helped Steve, wire everything, put it all together. So it's really, this whole vineyard is a family affair, and it's really cool to see.
What, in your opinion, is the number one thing that sets Rising Sun Vineyard apart from everywhere else that people would want to go?
We are family, and everyone who comes in here, we treat them like family. I will say the hospitality here is fantastic. One thing I like to say whenever people do sign up for the wine club, I always tell them welcome to the family. And it really is. We have members that come in on a regular basis, and they're old friends after a couple of pickup parties. The hospitality is really fantastic.
And there you have it. Rising Sun Vineyard is a family-owned and operated winery just an hour away from Austin. Rising Sun Vineyard currently has about 5 acres of grapes, and the vineyard produces a variety of wines. They also offer wine tastings, tours, and special events. One of the things that makes Rising Sun Vineyard unique is its location. So the vineyard is situated, like I said, on 70 acres of rolling Texas landscape, which provides stunning views of the surrounding areas. The vineyard also has a beautiful porch where guests can sip wine, enjoy the sunset. It's a great place to visit for a relaxing day out. The rising sun is also a symbol of new beginnings and hope, which is fitting for a family-owned business that's basically just starting out over the last 5 years. Now, as always, when you decide to make a visit, first check out their website. It's www.risingsunvineyard.com. You'll find all the good stuff like their history, their tasting room, even a link to a site dedicated to that new brewery that Shayna talked about. It's called Yegua Creek Brewery. You'll also find a place to get info on their events, their wine club, and even order their wines from the website. So if you're taking a group to check it out, and some people like wine, some people like beer, they have got you covered. You got to go check out this fun place. And don't forget, when you go to see them, make sure to tell them you heard about them on this podcast, Texas Under Vine. Now, for this vineyard, I was impressed with their 2019 Barbarian wine, and I had to buy a bottle of that to take home for my podcast wine library. It's actually a delicious bourbon barrel-aged Barbera wine, and it went down really smooth. But before the sun sets, I'm going to need to saddle up and head out to the next location on the trail to bring you even more great wine destination info. Lastly, if you're enjoying the show, would you consider sharing it with your friends and maybe going to the site where you got the podcast and leaving me a rating and review? I welcome all the feedback you're willing to give, and it'll help me make the show better and get it in front of even more wine lovers who need and want to experience the beauty of our Texas wines. Plus, it's completely free for you to leave a review or a rating for me. Well, my time is up, so don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and follow my socials to be notified whenever the next episode is posted. Until next time, happy trails and bottoms up, y'all. Thanks for listening to Texas Under Vine. We strive to provide you with the best information about wine businesses all over Texas. Be sure to check out our website at texasundervine.com and follow us on our socials at Texas Under Vine to stay up on all the upcoming episodes. Please email us with any suggestions or feedback. Also, contact us if you're interested in donating, sponsoring, or advertising on the podcast, just to help us cover our expenses and bring even more great info to you in future episodes. Above all, travel safely, and most especially, drink responsibly. Don't forget to also check out the Texas Wine Lover website and their phone app. If you want to plan a trip to the wine destination I talked about in this episode, the site for Texas Wine Lover and their phone app that you can download will really help you organize a trip so you can go see them. You can check out all of the goodness that I got to experience while I was there. But as you're planning your trip, while you're on their website or their app, you can also find out things like accommodations, restaurants, and even some fun events and things that are going on at the wineries, and maybe even find one that you want to experience as part of your wine trip that you never even expected. So check them out. Again, it's txwinelover.com.